If you don't wanna wait in long lines and you wanna eat where you wanna eat, then Disney World is not about just showing up, there's a strategy to it. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you the six-step process that we've created to help you plan a Disney World trip in 2026. Hi, I'm Shannon Albert from WDW Prep School.com, and I'm here today to talk to you about the process that we like to use to try to reduce overwhelm when planning Disney World trips. I actually created this before I ever launched the website in 2013 because I was like, I need something that's like a foundation, and it's still here. It has been tweaked a little bit over the years because Disney World has changed over the years, but the core principles have stayed the same. And I wanted to put it all together for you to help you in case you're new and trying to figure out exactly where to start. Back in 2004, I think it was, I was planning my first personal trip and I was so overwhelmed back then. And it's a lot more complicated now than it was back then. And I actually emailed somebody that had a website. I think it probably was a travel agent, but she had a website. And I just said, I don't really know what I'm doing. Is there any way you can plan this? And she was super helpful and sent me a link to a website that had information about planning. And that was one of those pivotal moments that just changed my life because then I really dove into learning all about it and made it my job. So here we are. If I was overwhelmed and could make a career out of it, then anybody can. So I wanted to talk through it to get you started. Let's start with step one, which is picking your dates. Now, your dates might be chosen for you if it's based on a school calendar, work calendar, whatever it is. But if you have some flexibility, then there's a little bit more investigation and research that has to be done. We do have a crowd calendar that we create every year to help people pick their dates, where we can tell you what events are going on, what the average temperatures are, and the predicted crowd levels, which is a big one for a lot of people. Some people care most about the weather, so that's going to determine their dates pretty clearly. Some people care most about the crowds, and so they want to target those lower crowd times. There's really pros and cons to every single date, but you have to start somewhere. So number step 1 is to pick your dates. Step 2 is to pick where you're going to stay. Now, obviously, Disney World Resort's what we talk a lot about, but you don't have to stay at a Disney World Resort. So the first question is, are you going to stay on site or off site? There are pros and cons to both. On site is going to be your best option if you want to be in the Disney bubble and you want to use Disney transportation and have some of the perks of being an on site guest, like early theme park entry, which gets you in 30 minutes early to the parks every day. You get earlier booking windows for your dining reservations and lightning lanes. And the Disney transportation that is available means you don't have to have a rental car or anything. If you want to stay offsite, a lot of times that will give you different options like more space, lower cost. If you have credit card points or hotel points or something, that is something you can use for offsite visits, which can make the trip more affordable, etc. So, offsite versus onsite are going to be your two big categories to start with. And then within that, you obviously need to narrow it down to exactly where you're going to stay. There are all kinds of things, different budgets that you can, use to determine this, different amenities. So you'll need to pick your hotel from that. We do have a trip estimator tool on the website. So if it is helpful to use our trip estimator tool to plug in different kinds of resorts and different elements for your trip, you can then come up with an overall estimated cost. And that can help you decide where you're going to stay as well to see what even fits within your budget. Step 3 is where we start to be surprising to people that have never planned a Disney trip, and that is to make a daily plan. Most people are not necessarily thinking about this with their vacations, but it is absolutely necessary for multiple reasons. And making a daily plan really just means to pick where you're going to be each day of your trip. That's at the high level, that's it. So you're gonna be at Magic Kingdom on the first day, you're gonna be at Epcot on the second day. Then maybe you have a day that's not in a park because you want to spend some time at the resort and have some pool time. And then the third day is Hollywood Studios, etc. So you're just picking where you're going to be each day of your trip. The results of this is a few things. One is it should help you figure out which park tickets you're going to need, how many days of park tickets, and do they need to be park hoppers? That's the two main takeaways from being able to make your daily plan. The other perks are that it's going to be helpful in the following steps that we're going to talk about because you have to know where you're going to be before you start making other decisions for your trip. So let's move on to those. Step 4 is to pick your dining. And this is another one that really blows people away that aren't used to planning Disney trips. Like, what do you mean I have to pick my dining months ahead of time? Well, for competitive things, then you do need to because a lot of people are trying to get those reservations. So, the last step I talked about picking where you're going to be each day. And when you pick your dining, I want you to keep in mind where you're going to be. One of the mistakes that I made on my very first trip that I have regretted for 20 plus years now is that I would hear about a reservation. Like we were staying at the boardwalk and I was like, oh, Ohana seems really fun. Well, Ohana is located at the Polynesian. It's not near the boardwalk. And let me just book that reservation and we'll go there for dinner. And I didn't think about the logistics of getting there, the amount of time it was going to take. In the meantime, I'm on the boardwalk, which has a lot of its own great restaurants. And so why was I not just walking down to a restaurant that was nearby? That can apply to your resort, like the example I just gave, but also in the parks. Because if you are going to be at Magic Kingdom for the day, then it would be really nice if your dining was at Magic Kingdom or nearby, like in one of the Magic Kingdom area resorts. So you would just be like a monorail stop away from it. Just keep in mind where you're going to be when you pick your dining. Once you have figured out your dining, you need to make sure that you are ready to book it. If you're staying on site, dining reservations are made 60 days before your check in date, and you can make them for your whole trip. These open at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. You can make them in the app or online, and you just want to make them all at once. And if you're offsite, it's a little bit different. If you're offsite, you can make your dining reservations 60 days before the day you want to eat somewhere. So if you have a 1 week trip, then you're going to need to get online 60 days before day one, 60 days before day two, et cetera, for the competitive things, that is. For a lot of restaurants, there's going to be plenty of availability. So that won't be so important. But for things like character meals or Space 220 Lounge or some of the signature dining, like the top fanciest restaurants at Disney World, it'll be a little bit more competitive. So that 60-day mark is going to be very, very important to be able to snag those reservations. Step 5 is all about park touring. So, choosing where you're going to be each day feeds into this as well, because for all of your park days, you're going to need to figure out how you're going to approach the parks if you don't want to wait in long lines. We have a lot of strategies around this that include rope dropping, which means being there at park opening. We have a lot of strategies that are around using lightning lanes. You don't have to do trips the way that we suggest, but for minimizing waits on lines, it does work, but you can do it however you want. But the bottom line is you have to figure out how you're going to do it because you need to know basics of like, where am I going when I get there? Going into a park at Disney World and seeing people stop on the sidewalk and open the map because they have no idea where anything is or where to go is a little bit frustrating because, it's inefficient and your time is money, your tickets are not cheap. So I think doing the homework beforehand can really maximize the time in the park. And I think as part of this, you're going to need to figure out which rides are going to be of most interest to your group. And then are you going to be wanting to buy lightning lanes to do it? We do, if it's in the budget, recommend lightning lanes, at least for Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, because they tend to be the most effective there. If you want to figure out the budget for this, because the money does add up, we do have a lightning lane calculator that I'm going to show right here on the screen and link to in the description because it can be quite a sticker shock to figure it out. And so, what I like to do with our calculators is put in my own variables, see the total, and then tweak some things and see how it affects it. And that way, when it is time to book your lightning lanes, you'll know what you're in for budget wise. The time to make your lightning lanes, if you're staying on site, is 7 days before your check-in day. So you just you can say to your phone or whatever, "What is 7 days before my check-in day?" And that's the day that you can make lightning lane reservations. These are made at 7 a.m. Eastern Time only in the app, and you can buy multi-pass lightning lanes, single pass lightning lanes. I have whole videos on lightning lanes that explain this process further. But you can use the calculator to kind of get started and figure out what you want to even pay for, what's in the budget, if anything, and then learn more as you go. So make sure that you know which lightning lanes you want to book and that you can book those 7 days before your check in day. If you're offsite, then you can book 3 days before your tickets begin. It is a slight disadvantage because a lot of the lightning lanes will have been booked by the on-site people. And that's why they offer it as an on-site perk because it can be nice to get first dibs. And the last step of our 6-step planning process is to add extra magic, whatever that means to you. Now, these can be things that don't cost much money, or they could be things that do cost money. And the point of this step is just to add creativity and personalization to your trip. Because what we've talked about so far is hotels, dining reservations, and lightning lanes. But what about some of the extra things that wouldn't fall into those categories? One way of doing this would be to have a creative countdown for your trip. We have lots of ideas for you if you would like those, and that can be very cheap or free depending on the method that you use, but it also could be very expensive. You might want to add some special touches to your trip, such as booking a tour, maybe booking a reservation at Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. It's just whatever it is to customize it for your group and the different people that are going, just like having this step in there because I think some people think, well, Disney's going to create the magic for me, and they might, but also you can bring some of your own creativity and fun to make it special. So add some extra magic, and that will kind of complete the planning for your trip. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of what we do. This is the backbone of our content and our approach to planning Disney World trips. I wanted to make sure that we had that out there. I have lots of resources I'm going to link to in the description, but feel free to also comment below with any questions or comments that you have. Thanks for watching.